All right, Northwoods Cardboard Gang, today we're going to be talking about Pokemon booster box investments in 2023. Where is the best place to put your money in the last four eras of Pokemon TCG for your Pokemon investments? So we're going to look at it right after this. All right, guys, I know I'm back after a short bit of sickness. It's taken about 3 weeks to get my lungs clear out to where I could have a good conversation, be able to talk again. Like I said, that live I did a couple weeks ago was pretty rough. So hopefully you guys are ready to get back after it. Hopefully we can have good discussions on the Pokemon TCG and where we're going to be going for our Pokemon investments here as times change, as the markets change, and as things continue to fluctuate here in the Pokemon TCG. So today we're going to take a look at the last four eras of the Pokemon TCG. Where is the best place to put your money? What is happening in each one of these four eras? And is there opportunities in each one of them? So today we're going to take a look at each one of them. And at the end, I'm going to tell you where I am personally putting my investment money currently in the Pokemon sealed booster box market in 2023. So that's going to be the course of where we're going to go. So, all right, so here we are in the XY era. And the XY era was a very interesting time when it came down to the Pokemon TCG. Not only was this era particularly weird when it comes down to the last two, when you compare it to Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield, but XY era has its most expensive booster boxes actually at the beginning of the era, compared to Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon, where they're coming in at the end of the era when things got up and everything got things going and alternate arts and trainer galleries and all these fancy cards started showing up. Once again, the most expensive booster boxes in XY, of course, are those first ones that came out in the set. So we're going to talk about the top three sets. Currently, the top three sets in this particular era is going to be starting out with Flashfire with around $2,800 a booster box. You've got Phantom Forces running about $2,200 to $2,500 a booster box, depending on where you can find it. And last but not least, you got XY base set, which is actually running about $900 to $950, just depending on where you find it, where you look. There can be some that I've seen around $890 was recent sales, but they're all listed at about $900 and plus currently. So once again, these are the three most expensive. Now, some people were thinking, why am I not talking about XY Evolutions? Well, XY Evolutions is an interesting one, but overall, it's a quick little jump into your base set. So a lot of people purchased XY Evolutions with the feelings that they wanted to have that nostalgia of opening up the base set. And of course, the pricing of XY Evolutions is a lot better. Currently, right now, that one is actually in the fourth position with it being around that $800 range. It can be plus or minus about $50. Sales both directions on that particular set. So it didn't quite make the top three, but overall, definitely worth honorable mention just because of the fact of how successful that set did during the boom. When we happened to have it in 2020 and 2021, that was one of the sets that when it finally took off, it did extremely well. Once again, it was people like my age chasing nostalgia when they came into this hobby coming up in 2020. So once again, there is some really good things when it comes down to XY Evolutions, but it didn't quite make the top three. Overall, what are we seeing with most of the sets right now in the XY era? And is there good opportunities when it comes down to your Pokemon investments in 2023 in booster boxes? Well, personally, I am still not seeing much movement in this XY era. Overall, these prices went up extremely fast, and they've been holding pretty steady for the last year. So we're going to take a look at the last year of data, and I'm going to put these three next to me in the charts. Once again, as you can see, pretty well flatlined. I mean, there's some movement up and down, especially when you're talking about $2,000 to $3,000 booster boxes. We see sales kind of up and down a couple $100 plus or minus on each one of those. But in general, if you look at the chart, it's pretty well flat. And to me, that just means that they're, number one, the pricing is probably right where it should be for these particular sets, meaning we're not seeing that upward market movements. And the other part of it is, too, is that really the later part of XY Evolutions, that XY Evolutions era and that XY series really happened at the end with the Pokemon Go boom. So the sets that you really should be looking at when it comes down to movement and nostalgia are going to be like Roaring Skies and XY Evolutions. But both of those were printed to oblivion because of the fact that there was popularity back in the Pokemon TCG in that XY era. And this was where we were always concerned that this could happen in Sword and Shield, even in Scarlet and Violet, that they could overprint this to abundance to completely kill the profitability and the market values of these particular sets. And those two sets are still feeling the results of that. It just has not really panned out. Yes, we saw extreme movement during the boom, But since then, we really haven't seen any more movement on those particular sets either. So it's just one of those interesting things in the XY era. There are really no movements in these particular sets, and in the last year, they really aren't moving very much. So that's what my play is right now in the XY Evolution, or XY series. Sorry, I keep saying evolutions, but XY series is a lot of flatline movement. Not really much market changes and not really much happening in these particular sets in the last year. They're just kind of hanging out there, and maybe in a few more years, nostalgia might kick in on some of them, and we'll see another big boom. But next thing we're going to be taking a look at is going to be moving into Sun and Moon. All right, Sun and Moon era is a very interesting era because to me, this has probably had the most organic growth in a set at the end of it. So if we look at 2019, right around that Hidden Fates and that last tag team going through that section of the Sun and Moon era, we saw the most potential growth in this particular set. And we've seen this set do really well through that time period, just organically. There wasn't like this big boom. There wasn't Logan Paul. There wasn't COVID yet. All these things had not taken into effect at this point yet. And overall, the actual sets themselves were seeing a great growth because of the amount of people coming into the hobby. This is when I came back into the hobby, was back in that March of 2019. Definitely started getting interested in with Unbroken Bonds. Love the tag team aspect and love the overall sets themselves. So once again, the Sun and Moon era kind of doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, for how well it performed, especially at the end and creating that organic growth of actually making flashier packaging, having more desirability, and then of course social media really seemed to have enjoyed it too and got it out there. So even myself, we started seeing it at Checkline Blisters with my son wanting those particular cards, and then of course started seeing it on YouTube when you started looking into it, got back into tournament play, and definitely enjoyed it during that tag team era. It was a lot of fun when that actually came out, and we could enjoy that before COVID of course started to shut us down. Overall, when we look at the top three sets of Sun and Moon, we're going to be looking at course number one is going to be Team Up. Team Up right now is an $1,800 booster box. Overall, extreme growth, and this one has done a lot of growth in the last year. We have seen this one almost double in the last year from where it was prior when it was around that $900 range. We are now up to almost $1,800. So that's a huge increase in value in this particular set. We are seeing that with a lot of the tag team sets. We have seen a lot of doubling of these particular sets, especially the last sets of that Sun and Moon block. Next one's going to be Cosmic Eclipse. It's got about $850 price tag. Now, even a year ago, I was still picking this up for around $400 to $450. It went up to about $600. It dropped down to about $450. I picked up a couple booster boxes around that $400 to $450. I picked up two right in that range. And then, of course, we started to see this growth happen afterwards. So once again, we're seeing these growths in these tag teams. Tag team sets are a lot of fun, and there are a lot of good cards inside of this. And Cosmic Eclipse, to me, is another one of those ones that I feel is still maybe a little bit behind comparatively to a lot of the different tag team sets, because that one also has a trainer gallery inside of it, which is a really cool aspect, and also alternate arts in this particular set. The Cosmic Eclipse being the last set of Sun and Moon was an explosive set with a lot of stuff in it, just following Hidden Fates. So overall, great set overall. I just feel that it's still lagging a little bit with all the alternate arts and things that are offered in it. It's a little bit behind. Currently, I'm going to be taking a look at the last one, which is going to be Celestial Storm. Interesting enough, it's not a tag team set, which is kind of interesting that this is kind of like the fourth or fifth set in the actual Sun and Moon block, but it's still around about $700. About $690 to $710, and we're currently on sales on this particular product. Overall, interesting set. I think it's a really good set. I did enjoy Celestial Storm when I got back into the hobby. Looking for there were some really good playable cards still in the Unbroken Bonds with tag teams coming out, but there were some playable cards in that particular set. And once again, I think it's doing really well because it does have some really good things with the Rayquaza cards inside of it, but it just did not get the printing and the amount of product that we've seen with a lot of the later tag team sets as the organic growth was happening with Pokemon in 2019. So once again, we're seeing these really good gains, these really good outstanding movements when it comes down to it, and Celestial Storm just snuck in. Of course, Unbroken Bonds and Unified Minds are tailing right behind that. So they're not far below it. They're both running about that $600 range, $625. So I got a feeling in the next few months, they're going to overtake this also based on the growth of this tag team era currently. So now we're going to kick it into Sword and Shield. All right, guys, here we are, Sword and Shield, probably the most familiar set of all the people right now in the Pokemon TCG hobby. Overall, Sword and Shield has had a really good run from start to finish between the boom of 2020 when Sword and Shield first came out, following all the way through the alternate arts and all the craze that we had at the end with the trainer gallery of these particular sets. Overall, Sword and Shield has got everything that everybody's going to want for nostalgia. Overall, most of the new people came into the hobby in this time period. A lot of new cards have been introduced, a really good artwork scheme with that alternate arts, taking Cosmic Eclipse alternate art at the end of Sun and Moon and cranking it up to really make some really good alternate arts that really gave you that feel of Pokemon in their real life scenarios where you would actually see them out in the wild or using them inside of the Pokemon TCG like you would see inside a Pallet Town or inside of a Lavender Town and all these different areas of the Pokemon world. And it really did a great job of encompassing these in the alternate arts. And I really do enjoy the alternate art scheme that they did in the Sword and Shield era. Once again, probably out of the last 3 eras that I've talked about, Sword and Shield has got a lot to offer. And I think that there's some really great opportunities overall in the Sword and Shield era. Once again, top performing sets 1, 2, and 3 are going to be Evolving Skies, Sword and Shield base set, and then Rebels Clash. I know a lot of people were thinking these alternate art sets would be the top dogs. But overall, Evolving Skies with an Umbreon Chase has been a huge banger when it comes down to it. But I think a lot of people that saw Evolving Skies, even myself, had said early on this set is going to be great. Just because of the fact you got Rayquaza, you get Dragonite, you can go right into all the evolutions, which is a huge fan base now in the Pokemon TCG. And overall, this set is cranking when it gets up to that $425, almost $450 range when it comes down to a booster box, which is incredibly high for such a new set in the Pokemon TCG. Next one you'll be looking at is Sword and Shield base set. That's about $250 to $260 currently for a booster box. Once again, I think the amount of print reducing on that one is really the bigger factor on it. They did a big ETB reprint, but really have never gone back and reprinted that many booster boxes, thus kind of hindering the amount of supply that there is for those booster boxes out there. Overall, they have the gold Zamazenta and Zacian inside of there, really good cards. And then, of course, they do have a couple Weefus inside of there that are really fun to have and a really good chase when it comes down to it. So overall, that Snorlax Gold or Rainbow in there is a fun card to get. I have that one now a couple times, but I do really enjoy the artwork of that one starting off the Sword and Shield era. Great opportunities when it comes down to that. Going to go into the last one, which is Rebels Class. Rebels Class, once again, kind of the redheaded stepchild of our Sword and Shield's generation. Once again, just kind of forgotten. Overall, did not get an ETB reprint, did not get a major booster box reprint, really has not gotten much stock, has that Great Boss's Orders card inside of it, of course has that Sonya card inside of it for a full art. Definitely some great opportunities overall for some good cards inside of there, futuristically, as long as the markets continue to move forward on them. And once again, interesting that this one's still holding up. But once again, lack of reprint and lack of supply on this particular two sets, I think, are what are driving those prices more than anything. Overall, a lot of the alternate art sets are hot on their heels. Once again, once the reprints are all done with these particular alternate art sets, I think we'll have no problem seeing some of these take over these positions in the next 2-3 years. Easily, we'll be seeing them pass up Sword and Shield base and Rebels Clash just because of the interest of these particular sets, like Lost Origins, even Brilliant Stars. Definitely seeing some great opportunities for them to chase up there. Also, Chilling Reign, one of the ones again. It's dropping down in price again for whatever reason. Overall, lots of alternate art opportunities in that particular set and great places to purchase in that actual set itself. So once again, really familiar sets, really familiar to a lot of people here in the Pokemon hobby currently. Overall, great opportunities in Sword and Shield. And we're going to go ahead and finish it off with Scarlet and Violet. All right, guys, here we are into the Scarlet and Violet. Of course, there's only 3 sets in this one, so we know what 1, 2, and 3 are going to be. And of course, they're ranged by the release dates. Of course, Obsidian Flame going to be holding the top spot at $97. We've got Pallade Evolved running about $87 a booster box. And of course, the base set, Scarlet and Violet base set, running about $78 to $80 currently. It's unbelievable to me the amount of loss that some of these people are taking currently on the price of these booster boxes. Because you got to remember, MSRP went up on these boxes coming from the distributors. I think that they were paying roughly between $92 and $97 per box. And to be taking a loss just to get rid of it, I think this is also a repercussion of 151. A lot of distributors, a lot of LGSs wanted to get 151 in stock, so they were willing to take a loss on some of these original booster boxes just to get them out in order to get capital to pay for the next one. Overall, I think Scarlet and Violet's really early on. We don't know exactly where this whole era is going to go. We need a set to really pop off. And when it comes down to it, Pokemon's probably going to be starting to add a new twist into the Scarlet and Violet era. We're getting far enough into this, just like we saw in Vivid Voltage, getting the amazing rares. Usually that third to fourth set, even that fifth set, we start to see some adaptation, some new mechanic being added to switch things up and kind of move the flow around a little bit, where we might see amazing rares or we might see prisms. All these cards start showing up about that set 4, set 5, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all rolls out, especially since we do have the new sets coming out, which are going to change the dynamic a little bit between the two different styles. So once again, we're going to be looking at that coming forward. Definitely going to be interesting to see how overall that performs. I'm really looking at that, and it really looks like enjoyable sets coming forward, especially for the Japanese version that's out there currently. Definitely some really nice art, really nice cards in those particular sets. Overall, in the Scarlet and Violet era, where are we looking at putting money when it comes down to booster boxes? Or is there a place that you're going to be looking at doing that? Well, of course, the pricing on it's right. I mean, if you're a new time beginning investor and you've got nothing but time on your hands, there's some really good opportunities to buy some really low price booster boxes currently in this market. When you can be in 2023, be able to buy a 6-pack of booster boxes for under $600, it's not a bad buy, especially when you consider going to the Sword and Shield, where you're looking more about $900 for a pack or a 6-pack of booster boxes. Definitely not a bad price point to jump in. And once again, a little bit higher risk, a little bit higher to assess how things are going to pan out. Overall, Obsidian Flame, Charizard set, overall Charizard sets do seem to perform well over time. But once again, it's kind of going to be a timing thing. Just take your time and see where it plays out. We don't have to rush in and buying things in this particular era, but there are definitely potentially some opportunities that are going to be coming up in it. So once again, this is where we are right now with these 4 eras. These are the top performing booster boxes in it. And we can talk when it comes down to it where I am actually putting my money currently when it comes down to my Pokemon sealed booster box investments in 2023. All right, guys, here we are. The big reveal. That's right. We're going to be talking about where I am personally putting my money currently in the Pokemon TCG when it comes down to Pokemon booster box sealed investments in 2023. Put your answers in the comments below. I'm kind of curious to know where you guys think I'm going to be putting it. And also, before I go any further, be sure you hit that like, hit that notify, and also hit that subscribe button to help out the channel. Once again, let's get this thing moving again. I've been off for 3 weeks, so the algorithm's a little bit weak. So hitting that like button at this point would be a great help if you do like this kind of content. Well, where am I putting my money? That's the big question when it comes down to my overall Pokemon booster box investments in 2023. I am currently kind of spreading it between 2 distinct locations. I'm not really spending much time in the XY era. There's some really good flatline stuff, but once again, that flatline stuff means you have time. Until we really start seeing movements and increases in price or something really drastically changing and creating that upheaval, the reasons to jump into it, it's really just a waiting game at this point in that particular sets. And if you have not purchased into it yet, there's no reason to rush into purchasing those expensive booster boxes and sitting on them potentially for a long period of time. Sun and Moon, if you are not currently in those particular sets, once again, you could pick and choose. Like Cosmic Eclipse, to me, still has some great opportunities. I see some really good potential in there, but once again, it's almost too late to be jumping into them. At some point here, we're going to see more stagnation in those particular sets where they're not going to grow as fast because the pricing is getting too expensive. Once again, I am falling more into that Sword and Shield era. I'm using reprints as an opportunity, such as the Silver Tempest and the Lost Origins reprints are great opportunities to purchase in at a really good price on some really good booster boxes with alternate arts and trainer galleries inside of them. Brilliant Stars, still a great opportunity to purchase that at a reasonable price. In my opinion, I think that there's some really good growth overall in those particular sets. And last but not least, I am still purchasing quite a bit of the Paldea Evolved and also Obsidian Flame. I think both of those sets are really slow. I think there's some really good opportunities into them, and put a price tag at that low of a price where I can buy a 6-pack of booster boxes for around $550. To me, that's a fantastic deal, especially on Paldea Evolved. To me, I think that that's a very slept on set overall, and there's some really good opportunities for that set to really pop off, especially if we get some people into this and get some excitement into the Scarlet and Violet. Those particular sets, and that one in particular, has some really good opportunities. Once again, Obsidian Flame, still kind of watching it. I haven't purchased a lot into it, but it's definitely a set that I'm keeping my eye on for that right price point. I think that this one could drop sub 90 also. And once again, when we see this set drop sub 90 potentially, it's a great opportunity to purchase this one. And once again, Charizard set. It's got that gold Charizard. It's got that SAR Charizard in it. It's got a full art Charizard. It's got Charizard EX. It is a Charizard pack set. And overall, it has some really good views when it comes down to it. And that Charizard chase in the future is always something I'm looking at. Charizard chases always seem to do really well. Look at Darkness Ablaze. Even though that set's taking reprint hit, even though that set's dropped down to about $100 a booster box, it continues to just slowly climb its way back out of it just because of a Charizard chase. And that Charizard is not as hard to pull as that SAR is in this particular Obsidian Flame set. So once again, it's easier to pull the VMAX Charizard because it's just a standard VMAX out of Darkness Ablaze than it is to pull the actual SAR out of Obsidian Flame. And we continue to see that Darkness Ablaze continues to crawl up. Why won't Obsidian Flame do that at some point in time as Charizard chases continue to occur? They don't go away. People are still always stuck on Charizards. It's a great selling point, and it's a great opportunity for futuristically for people to want to open this particular set. So overall, guys, hopefully this is some good information. Hopefully this helps you out on your directions to go in the Pokemon TCG. Hopefully you guys can use this information to kind of look back and see where things are currently in the Pokemon TCG and maybe make some decisions futuristically. So once again, guys, if this was a really helpful video and if it helped you get a direction on where you should go, number one caution I'm going to use: patience, patience, patience. I know I can't say it enough to people. Be sure you just take your time and let things develop. But overall, there's some really good opportunities still in the Pokemon market. They're just going to take longer to work through. Once again, you're going to be sitting on shiny cardboard potentially for a long period of time. But other than that, guys, hopefully if I did bring you some good information, I can get the support of your subscription. Also, hit that notify and also hit that like button, guys. Let's get this algorithm going again since I've been gone for the last 3 weeks. Greatly appreciated that you guys are joining us. Once again, new schedule. We're going to be doing the live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Central Time. We're going to have a video released on Wednesday and Friday at 2 p.m. just as normal. And we're going to continue to maybe throw in some shorts and things as we move forward. So once again, this is going to kind of be the new schedule. Since I took 3 weeks off, I figured it was a good opportunity to throw in the live that I've been wanting to do and also giving you 2 videos a week on where to go on the Pokemon market and investments. Overall, guys, if that does help you out, be sure you hit that subscribe and like. Other than that, if you do like this kind of content, check out the 2 I'll put at the end for you guys. And we'll see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.